April 19th, 2025. Well, I guess things have settled down a little bit for on the tariff issue, which we were discussing, and the big thing now seems to be uh, this MS-13 guy Garcia, uh, who's down in El Salvador prison, and but on and for the moment we're kind of the Democrats are really spun up on this issue, and it's hogging the news right now. It'll be interesting to see exactly how this pans out. Um, it's clear the guy is an MS-13 thug, and apparently he's one step away from making it as a full-fledged member of those. He's kind of at an associate level at this point, and apparently hasn't committed his mandatory murder yet in order to actually get fully made or something. But yeah, this is an interesting case because it also involves the court system, and I guess uh, we'll be seeing what comes on the following Monday, what happens in the district court. Um, but it really is kind of a situation here. On the one hand, we don't really even know, as we know right now, the original judge had ordered him to be brought back by a certain time, and the administration appealed to the Supreme Court. And essentially, what they did was they vacated the time aspect of it, but said that they should facilitate his return, basically, which becomes, what does that require you to actually do? Uh, I mean, it didn't say to actually, it has to occur. Um, I guess the presumption might be it could be taken either way, and we don't really know quite why this came down the way it did. It was a unanimous ruling of the Supreme Court, but we get the feeling here that maybe there was a lot of dissension. We can certainly imagine that at least three members would be absolutely wanting him to demand that he return Garcia to the country, and of course the but we also know that there probably are some others that probably are not going to go that way. At the same time, almost everybody on the court probably wants to establish the authority of the court, particularly given Trump's demeanor of kind of acting like he's just going to go off and ignore something a lot of times. He tends to talk that way at times, and that I think motivates these courts to react to it in a way that's adverse to his interests. So that's kind of where I see at this point. Now, how far the court wants I mean, in other words, is he actually in defiance of the court? Is he required to do what? Now, the Attorney General Pam Bondi said that, well, they interpreted being that if he was available to return, that they would provide the transportation, like send a plane to pick him up. Okay, maybe shackles to handcuff to bind him with as well. So that's kind of their interpretation. The Democrats' interpretation, I'm sure the district court judge thinks it means they have to kind of make it happen. And of course, I'm pretty sure Trump could make it happen. I mean, because look what he tries to make happen. Tariffs around the world and everything. On the other hand, he doesn't want to lose El Salvador's prisons as a way to, confine legitimately deported MS-13 members. So, there's kind of a tension there, and obviously, as far as we know, they've not asked for his return. So, is that defiance or not, and does it matter? If you like these videos, please give me a like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications, or you can follow me on Rumble, which the address is in the description below. So that's kind of the state of right now. We have Senator Van Hollen then went down and demanded to meet the guy, and eventually they got together and around a table and had a little chat. You can tell the Democrats really like this guy. They're sticking up for MS-13. And who knows, maybe the MS-13 will help them with election fraud in a future election. That's certainly a possibility. I mean, the Democrat Party does kind of have an alliance with the criminal element at some levels. But so, well, okay. The thing I think is strategic, and I mentioned before, I'll get into a little bit here, is the key thing, I think, from the Trump administration is not to alienate the Supreme Court. And I have also pointed out, I think some of the members of the court, okay, three are obviously enemies, just outright, mostly. The other six, you have some conservative members and you have some, let's say, moderate conservative members that may be a bit wishy-washy. And that's just a reality. As Coney Barrett, yeah, I'm not confident in her at all. I particularly, I believe, by putting her on there and her starts chatting with the other women on there, they're liable to kind of evolve in a certain direction. That's why I wouldn't have picked her more than any other reason, just that phenomenon. Then you have, you know, the other people, which are kind of varied in intensity, and then they all have their individual quirks, but they're all one thing, and that's judges. You know, um, Chief Justice Roberts is probably, my guess is that this was Chief Justice Roberts's idea. What was handed down was to write something that's a little bit ambiguous, avoid actually trying to order uh, the, um, the thing to happen on a given timeline because it was probably too late to do it then anyhow, and they vacated that aspect of it. And on the other hand, the idea to say, well, go ahead and bring them back. Because remember, the administration has admitted it was an error to send them, that there was a paperwork mistake. Okay. Um, they needed to have a little bit more procedures in this case because of the second judge. I think it was the second immigration judge that said he shouldn't go back to El Salvador because he was feared for his life, which is, I believe, has later been proven to be bogus. That in fact the group that was supposed to be the threat isn't really active in El Salvador, and MS-13 is a lot more dominant there. So I don't think he has any real risk there anymore than he would have in the States. So, the question is, though, I'm worried about is how will this affect other rulings that the Trump administration wants? Because a lot of these things are kind of in a gray area where the court could, depending on their motivations, go in either direction. And I think this kind of, I'm very worried about that if he gets in the mode of appearing to defy the courts on a minor issue like this could lead to the courts ruling against them on a major issue, one that we really would like to win, like, for instance, birthright citizenship, which they've now agreed to hear. We'd love to have a good ruling on that. And I think they could go either way, or they could really go strongly in one way or the other. I think I could envision either a split decision in favor of them as a ruling or a unanimous decision against. I think it could go either way. Um, I think there's a good case, in fact, that the 14th Amendment, at least based on the original intent test, never really meant birthright citizenship because why weren't Native Americans considered citizens until the 1920s? Of course, there's other issues that could be in there, but it was originally meant to apply basically to the freed slaves, African Americans, that they didn't want the states to be able to take away their citizenship rights. And that was what it was originally all about. But since then, there was some kind of a ruling on an Asian guy back in the 1890s, but that wasn't definitive for everything, I don't think. And eventually, this evolved into kind of a principle. So we'll see how that goes. I don't get too much into that. But it's things like this, and also what they have to do about the deporting these gang members, particularly, and other illegal aliens. For that matter, there's a lot of illegal aliens here. And we do need to deport lots of them, I think. I mean, do we want them all to stay? I mean, that would be a victory for Biden to flood the country with them. So we need to have support from the courts. I don't think we can only get by just defying the system such as it is. And so that's the reason I think maybe it would have been smarter to have just quickly brought the guy back and then went through a variety of legal procedures over the technical details and then got him deported again, which I think could have been done. But now it's becoming a political thing. And of course, with Van Hollen's trip down there and other Democrats saying they're going to follow suit and all the speeches they're all making, Hillary Clinton and whatever, it looks to me like the Democrats are committing to supporting this guy, which I think is against what most people really agree with. So it's kind of how does it break into people's minds? Are you following the court rulings or are you deporting dangerous people? And depending on how people see it, I think it's still a political advantage to Trump by fighting this thing up to a point, it makes the Democrats be allied with illegal aliens again, and which should help Trump, and also should maybe cover a little bit from the blowback over this tariff thing, which we've discussed previously. But for the moment, the tariff thing I don't think has done a whole lot of damage because the impact hasn't been felt yet. The inflation numbers came out good in the last report, so But I'm looking at it with essentially a complete embargo on most things from China. Uh, I think we're going to see a lot of Chinese products disappearing without any effective replacement. And so the battling over the immigration issue probably gives a political advantage, and I think that may be why they're sticking with it, other than just being stubborn. Um, and of course, this judge is, well, Bozeman. He's gonna. By the time you see this video, he'll be in it on Monday again, and he's making a lot of wild rulings, and he may even try to file some kind of a contempt ruling against members of the administration. So we'll see how that goes. Um, there's also the issue of the fact that the plane was already flying and so forth, and all that. So we'll have to you know wait and see how that goes. The issue, it would seem to me, and I don't know the precedents on this, but if in fact somebody's found in contempt and I don't know, either fined or sentenced to a jail term, can't the president just turn around and pardon the guy? I'm not sure about that. I would think pardons are pretty universal. Look at the things that have been done with pardons. So, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. And of course, I guess the other issue, even if you could, should you? I mean, how would that go down politically? And that's another issue you'd have to, face. So anyhow, that's kind of the way that's going. Now, the other thing that's kind of come up very recently is the comments from Secretary of State Rubio saying basically that the administration is getting tired of being the middleman, I guess, on the Ukraine-Russia peace negotiations, and if there isn't some progress pretty quickly, that they're going to bug out of it. Now, what that means, I don't know. I mean, bug out of it means bug out of negotiating, or does it mean we're going to bug out of the whole conflict? I mean, Ukraine is largely sustained with U.S. aid primarily. I mean, weapons and intelligence and so forth. If we completely bug out, that pretty much puts Russia in a pretty good shape to ultimately win the conflict, I think. Yes, there will be some escalating European input to it, but it's hard to believe that would be enough to really affect or in any way compensate for the U.S. input, which is much more dominant. I mean, all the different, and we don't know how bugged out we're going to be. Plus, the appropriation that was made about roughly a year ago that funded $60 billion worth. I mean, that's probably getting pretty close to being spent by now. So at this point, unless there's a new appropriation, I don't know if we even have the budget to do anything with it. So that's something else in the coming week to keep an eye on and see how that goes. Um, Again, as I've always said, the big problem is that the two sides are just far apart on the terms of it. From the Russian point of view, a simple ceasefire just simply lets potentially Ukraine rearm, and the Ukrainian point of view is they want the Russians completely out back to the 1991 borders. So they're nowhere near the same place, I don't think. So, but we'll see whether pressure actually prevails on one or the other or not. So that's about it for this time. I'll be wrapping this up and posting this on YouTube and Rumble as always, and the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below. I make small posts most often on X about things between videos. So all for now.